I want to take it back a little bit. What type of student were you in school?
What type of student was I in school? I think I was a very smart student, but I definitely didn't apply myself the way I should have. I would say class clown at times. I was definitely fidgety. Always wanted to, on the go. I was challenging. I think the older I got, the more I settled down and started to kind of see life. I was a very nonchalant type of kid, so it was almost like grades didn't really matter to me until like you seen the kids getting, awards in school, and that's when it hit me like, this is what I should have been doing, this is what I could have been doing. And even now I kind of like base it on that. I think a lot of my time in the industry, I was, a little sidetracked, or my focus was on something else. And right now, that's my word for today and for the rest of this year and maybe even life. The word focus. You know what I mean? That's a very big responsibility that a lot of people don't realize. You have to have that word focus. You have to be responsible and treat that word with care. And so growing up from a boy who was a student who didn't really focus, now I'm learning valuable lessons as a man with the word focus.
Did you graduate high school?
12th grade year. I was a breakout athlete, star athlete, very talented, of course, sung, and my family was very talented. There wasn't any talent show that I wasn't going to win. And got to my 12th grade year, last semester, and I would say my biggest downfall at the time was a woman. And, when you fall in love, me being a Pisces, and, if you know anything about the Pisces male, when we love hard once you got us. And I spent a lot of time and energy in it, and I ended up getting in trouble just before one of the biggest games of at that time of my life. And I had, recruits looking, NC State. Never forget my friend Adrian Wilson, which played for the Arizona Cardinals. I think he was like in the top 5 free safeties in the NFL league at the time. He was going to NC State, and he walked up to me, I'll never forget, and he was like, yo, the school's looking at you, da-da-da, and I just didn't capitalize. So long story short, gun charge, had a gun in my car because, of course, anybody who knows about being popular or being an athlete or having a large talent and if you call yourself a ladies' man or whatever you call yourself, dealing with, a popularity type situation, you're gonna run into some problems. And I was running into some problems with, some of the kids in my city, and certain kids wanted to jump me, so I just felt like I had to protect myself. And I think me getting in trouble and me not graduating was like maybe the best thing that ever happened to me, because it opened my eyes, to life. Yeah.
Ever had thoughts to go back and get a GED?
All the time. All the time. And I think right now what has happened is, again, that word focus. I'm so focused on what I need to do to survive and take care of family and accomplish the goals and dreams that I set for myself. And so when you get ready to go and do those type of things, and you on the road, and something is, and I started at one point, I went all the way through the classes and I started taking online classes, but something as simple as, the computer glitching, it just keeps glitching, and that combined with, hey, you need it over here. You got to do this. We got this studio session. It just kind of fades away. And so you have to start all the way back over. So I know at a certain point, another accomplishment for me and another goal, another dream is to do that, you know. But in the meantime, reading, trying to keep myself intellectually on top of things is something that I do. I don't do as much as I should, but I do. And one thing I will say, I'm so grateful that God blessed me to be a man who is intellectual, and I have common sense. I have a lot of common sense. I'm able to think things through before reacting most of the time. I'm still human, but that's what gets me through.
Now, jobs you had growing up, if any?
It's funny because, you know, jobs I had growing up. That's a funny, you know, question. I have a lot of my friends like, man, you ain't never had a job, have you? And it's funny because it's like, I tell them, well, you know, that's all the part of saying you don't really know somebody like you thought you did. So I know I'll never forget. I think my first job. Let's see, what was my? I had a few jobs. My first job, I think, was at McDonald's. I lasted one day.
You quit or you got fired?
I quit.
Why?
I think because I'm a prideful male, and growing up in my city, you know, we had this one McDonald's in particular. The name of it's kind of like, you know, Little 5 Points in Atlanta. This was called 5 Points because all the 5 points met in High Point, and
North Carolina.
High Point, North Carolina, and you would see all the kids in the neighborhood come in. And, you know, it was just like, I felt like I was missing something. And so, next day I quit. So then my next job, I think I got Taco Bell. I kept that longer. And it's almost like lifting weights. I developed this instinct that I needed to keep going. Let's see how long you can work, how many hours you can work over the summer. Let's just say it was in vain because the check was definitely fucked up. But I did get out of it. I remember buying a few pair of football gloves because at that time you didn't have anybody sponsoring you, Nike, none of that. So I got some gloves, some school shoes. I think I bought me some football cleats, you know, a couple clothes. But when I tell you I slaved that summer, I slaved. So I think after that, the following summer, I ended up working at Food Lion. And Food Lion was a pretty cool job. And I kept it for a minute. A couple summers. And then I think I ended up doing something stupid. Like me and my friend had just watched the Set It Off movie. And Food Lion at the time was remodeling. They were remodeling, and we felt like, okay, you know, you two high school kids, you hungry, you know what I'm saying, not a lot of money, parents doing the best they can. We took it upon ourselves. We was like, look, we're gonna get some meat, we're gonna take it through the back, we're gonna sit it out, and when the sun come up, we clock out, take it home. So we done got all these treats, we got meats, everything. And please forgive me, I hope this don't come back to ever haunt me because I've endured enough karma. What we call ourselves, we know we're gonna take it home, and we ate good for weeks. And then all of a sudden, you get the manager call you in. It was like, "Hey, I know what you've been doing." So they was basically trying to crack us. And till this day, I think we'd have got away with most of it. But one of my friends, you know, God rest his soul, he's in heaven now. He kind of ratted on us. Our friend Chris, Stinky, you remember it. We pulled a good heist, but we got caught in the end. And so I think that was like my third job. Fourth job, I started, moving up. Me and my friend, Nick Jackson, we ended up in a convenience store. That was fun, because at that point, we was trying to get toys. Like, we're going to get motorcycles. And, so we had started saving up and coming up with a plan. And it happened. And then life goes on. And I ended up having a kid. And from there, I ended up finding myself. And I think this is when life really changed for me. When I knew that school was over, I wasn't going back. I couldn't play football no more, and I found myself in a plant, a sooty, smoked out plant making school buses, as many as you could put out on the assembly line at Thomasville Buses. Shout out to, I forgot his name. I'm glad I forgot your name. You made me feel like I wasn't gonna be anything. And the motivation coming up with songs while I'm taking this drill, about to rip my I gotta wear a brace around my wrist, and I'm trying to rivet holes in the bus. And some of you who've done it, you know what I'm talking about. And I had this cocky white guy who was like, he had the hair slicked back with the shades, and he had the polo shirt tucked in. You could tell, I'm a boss. I'm one of the bosses of the plant. He knew somebody, his dad or somebody was a boss. It was just, you could kind of, that's when you started to see the racial barriers and what life was. That's the real world. And he was cool. He always wore shades, and he was like, you ain't gonna be nothing. Basically like a retard. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna show you. And as I'm riveting, songs are coming to me. And then what I started doing from there, I started going out. I got a band called Infinity, formed this band, and we would go out and play shows. And it was like, Infinity was like, if you could put NERD, Earth, Wind and Fire, Queen, Jodeci, Nas Barkley together and shake it up with a little slice of mint condition or something like that, you had it. So it's like all the kids was like, we was packing out shows without being on the radio. It was like underground hype, one-on-one. We had it. We had it on lock. And that was my motivation to start working. After Thomas built buses, I told myself I would never go and work for anyone again.
Now, what's the worst thing you put your parents through? That was a deep, deep breath right there. Deep sigh.
Whew.
Another sigh.
Yeah. Domestic violence. Crazy part of it was I wasn't the one who was doing it. I ended up, again, you coming in, you in this little small city, everybody wants to be somebody, everybody, you don't really have much to do. And in my case, I just wanted a girlfriend. I was like, okay, you'll get you a girlfriend, you're gonna play football, I wasn't worried about music, because that was a family. It was like second nature. It was like everybody's doing music in my family. All right, cool. And so found myself with this cute little chocolate chick, and it's like, yo. But the thing was, she was from the hood. Now here's where it gets crazy. She's little, she's small. And so, I'm like, yeah, I got a girlfriend. When you're in your teens, you and your girl kind of horseplay and stuff like that. So we in the mall. I'll never forget this. In the Oak Hollow Mall. And I remember being on the top floor. She's on the bottom. And something said, I threw I'm looking over. I see I threw a little piece of paper over. Bro, I kid you not. I'm not exaggerating. You can ask anybody to follow up this story who was around. Crystal Brown, you remember, because Crystal had the kind of like defuse the situation. She comes up the escalator and she turns the corner and literally punches me in my mouth. So at this point, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, whoa. So from there, it was like, I was like, nah, I can't do that. So I kind of forgot about her. So I'm in school, time's going on, and her friend Crystal's like, comes up to me like, nah, give her a chance, da-da-da. She ain't mean to do that, da-da-da. And I was like, all right, cool. Now, I missed all of the signs. Like, her father was like, you need to leave my daughter alone. I'm thinking because she was slightly younger than me, then, he just didn't. So later he tells me, this is why I told you to leave her alone. But what happened was, long story short, she come from, a home where, her mom was kind of like the young girl who didn't take any mess and was, they would just literally get out in the streets and fight. And that's what I found myself doing. So it went from a system of fighting all the time and I'm like, yo, how can I stop this? But at this point, I'm in love. I'm like, yo, I done took her in. So, her mom wasn't around at the time. And it's like her dad was always on the road. He was a truck driver. So I'm like, buying her kicks. I'm, working. I'm buying shoes and then just taking care of her. And then all of a sudden you find out, oh, she's cheating. So it's like you go from the dude taking care of her, you break her virginity, your life is, thinking, oh, at that point you still like, it was different for me. And I don't know if, again, because I'm a Pisces or how I was raised, but I seen in the cards that I was going to be something special. But then I also, at that point, seen in the cards that, oh, we're going to have a kid, and, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm going to take care of her. And it just went downhill so fast. And it was to the point where I had schoolmates calling me, or coming, they'll pass me in the hallway and it's like, yo, I had a dream. I seen you in a casket. Now, that's funny because if you think about it, normally it's opposite. You normally got the female where he's like, yo, you need to leave him. I had so many girls in school like, you need to leave her alone. I just couldn't. Till one day, I offered to, we had broke up. I never forget, we broke up and I was seeing this other girl. But I was trying to be mature about it, and I don't know why, because she was still younger than I was. So I go and get her, thinking she was. I remember taking her to a doctor's appointment, and the girl that I was seeing, her coat was in the back seat of my car. So at this point, she's got infuriated. She hot. She goes in, but we're not together. She's like, yeah. She's trying to scare the girl off, her and her friends, scaring the girl off after school. So I take her to the doctor. Now me, and I'm saying this on camera because I think even to this day, she still thought that I was lying. So I'm saying it on camera. So I'm going on record. So I'm not going to lie. The story still remains the same. I go at that time, and this is before the Thomas Bill bus situation. I go and try to apply to get a job in the mall at a shoe store. So I go and run and get an application because I know now this is real. She's pregnant. You know what I mean? We've done so much damage, cheating, everything. She's pregnant. I know 9 times out of 10 it's mine. Everything's cool. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna accept my responsibility. Go get my application. Come back. She's livid. I remember this like it's happening now. She tells me, she says, when I get home, I'm gonna cut you up, motherfucker. And I'm like, you ain't gonna do, of course I'm in the urban mode, you ain't gonna do shit. Boom, boom, boom. But I knew I wasn't gonna put my hands on her. And like clockwork, we pull up to the house, and she I never forget, she hit me in my face. And before I knew it, I'm driving, I mushed her. So her head, I guess, hits the window. And before I know it, she just started going crazy with her hands. And she gets out of the car, and I feel a bunch of cold. It was cold and wet. And I look down, my stomach's hanging open. My arm had to get stapled up, slashes. It's just where you see pain is love, or love is pain, however you want to take it. And I put that on there because I went through so much, you know. And I know women can relate to that because when they have children, you go through pain. And so I think that was the roughest point for my parents because, you know, my mom actually got a call from her and was like, yo, come and get your son, he in the hospital. She even offered to drive me to the hospital. Like, now get over in the passenger seat, let me drive you to the hospital. So that's how deep this was. And so eventually, my grandmother, God bless her soul, you know, she, at the time when she was living, she had a church, and it was like a scene from a movie. I never forget this. She wanted me to go and get something from the church. And I walked in on a domestic violence, like a support group. And the lady was like, yo, you need to learn, you love yourself. And I'll never forget, at the time, a girl in the neighborhood, her mom had just got killed by her boyfriend. And so the lady kind of brought that up. She was like, if you either need to love yourself, and blah, 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 because these people will manipulate you, blah, blah, blah. She was just going on and on. And she was like, if you love yourself, you'll call your spouse right now, whoever you with, that's doing this to you, and you'll tell them, listen, I love me, I can't do this no more. And I got up from the back pew in the church and walked outside and called her, and I'll never forget, she laughed. That was the beginning of my life changing. That was the beginning of the life-changing mission. And my parents, it became a little easier. But I remember them going through that, and my mom was just very devastated.
So those slashes and those marks, was it from a razor or something that she cut
Yeah,
you
a
with?
box cutter. She basically had a box cutter. So I'm assuming, like, you know, if you got at that age, she was like 16, 17. At that age, like, you know, we both teenagers. At that age, like, you had already kind of premeditated. You told me what you was gonna do and everything, and you did it. And even though I feel like nobody should ever have to go through that, I thank God that I went through it, so I could tell people my story and the things that I went through. And I could tell people how there were certain places that I probably shouldn't have been, and this is why this happened. And there's certain things that I couldn't control, but I made it through. So what didn't kill me made me stronger. But all in all, it taught me to think intellectually and play a game of chess and not checkers. Know that the eye on the stove is hot before you go putting your hands on it, because you get burnt just thinking without thinking. Just, you know, you're gonna react and you haven't thought about anything. So
now, if you don't mind me asking, you had mentioned a baby in the story. Did you end up having a child with her, or?
Definitely end up. I'm gonna tell you how funny love is. I had a few kids. I had boys by this girl. The crazy part, love is crazy, and I think that's when I started to look at love different. I started to dissect love and how valuable it can be, how love could be such a gift and such a curse at the same time. It's like, even after that, I still loved her, and it was still cheating. It's crazy, because it's like, and a lot of people be like, man, you real pussy for that, but bro, I called the cops on her before. And watch this. I could understand what we talking about between good and bad, police, serving the community the right way, good cop, bad cop, things of that nature. Like as me trying to be a respectable citizen and trying to be a humble man and trying to, you know, straighten my life out and get it together. Like, I end up calling the police and I still went to jail. So
on a different occasion.
No, different occasion, but you know, like fighting. You call the police like, yo, I gotta get out of this house. You know what I mean? I gotta get out of here because, you know, and you tell the police, listen, somehow you find a way, well, we're gonna have to take you in. And she may have been the one who kind of set you up. So that's a definite message. That's a message for all of you inspiring male artists who feel like Casanovas. My teacher always said, anything a man can do, a woman can do 3 times better when you're talking about relationships in the game. And I never forgot that.
So you ended up having 2 children with her?
I ended up having 4 boys. I was young. 4. Yeah, 4 boys. And, you know, going through the episode and, you know, had some rebounds. And, you know, it just, let's just say at the time, I turned out to be a Mick Jagger. Because at this time, I wasn't as big. I was, you know, a lot of people like, yeah, you don't look like a running back. I was a running back then, running back, linebacker. You know, I played a lot of positions. And so if you don't believe me, go ask some of my friends. I was good. And you know, rebounds. I started to going through those transitions. I started not to care about life anymore. And what happened to me, I grew so nonchalant. It was partying, late night. You get up, go to work, do it some more. Women. So you end up rebound, and then other things happen. Life just starts to. So at around, I'll say like 2003, 2004, my cousin had me to come down, 2002. It was like 2001, 2002. That's when I first really came to Atlanta, and really took in the land and the people. And I never forget, you know, my cousin, his name is Julius Barrino. We call him Junebug or Johnny Brasco. And that's who basically gave me my name, Puerto Rico. And of course, you know, he took his effect on everybody, from my sister Fantasia, my little brother Teeny, that his name was the last great Don. And it was just crazy. Like, we just had this movement. And what we would do is we would my mission was like, okay, I want to take over Atlanta. You know, I was young, so I'm like, I gotta find a way. So I never forget, 2002 on up to 2004, I'm back and forth Atlanta, and I'm singing at places like Apache. And that's when it was me, my brother Teeny, my boy Jack. We had again this Earth, Wind and Fire sound. We you know, we can go high, everything, everybody. It was so soulful. And we had developed that crazy sound, listening to people who we admire, Outkast and Goody Mob, people we grew up listening to. And then my dad had us listening to, of course, gospel music, rock music. We was listening to everything we can get our hands on, figure out how to make it ours. And we would go to Apache Cafe and start blazing it. I'll never forget, we met this cat named J-Dog. And J-Dog was the big brother figure. So while my cousin was at work, J-Dog was sitting in doing music for us, because he had a deal prior. He was in a group. And so he helped us. He took us in. And you know, my cousin was the only one working. So again, my cousin, it was funny because my cousin basically used us, because I was kind of the man whore. I was like he was pimping. I was like the little gigolo. He'd be like, listen, I never forget. It was this this girl had this nice shape, but she kind of had like a lazy eye. So I knew she liked me. He was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? She got the meat in the fridge. I need you to go handle that. So I was the guy who had to go over her house, do something strange for some change with her. You know, nothing too freaky, nothing, you know. We ain't go, but, you know, I had to just go handle my business, and that's how we ate in the city. So we, you know, when we wasn't doing that, we was rehearsing, doing our thing, and that's when 2004 rolled around, going to 2005. 2005, getting ready to go, I think it was 2006. Is that it? Like 2006, I'll go get my sister. That was the bright idea. And then history starts to alter itself again. And the funny part about it was Apache Cafe has like a list of people. Once they build their name and their sound, it's like they look like, who are you? It was like a closed society, like a circle. So it's like I had kind of made my name, you know, with a bunch of those talented people at Apache's. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, so many people. And my sister hadn't. So one night I bring in, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna debut you. And it was too late. She couldn't make the list. And it was funny because I went back home and I was like, dang. But the end result, American Idol, gone.
Now, in our previous questions, when we were talking about high school and you as a student and stuff like that, you had mentioned, you know, you being a football player and you had, I guess, an incident with a game and stuff like that you couldn't do, and it was over a female. Was this the same female that you had mentioned? Or?
Same female. Same. So the crazy part about it was, like, everything was centered around one female at the time. I had just, like, because she had started cheating, like, we both started cheating, and just by the time kids and everything, that's when the Mick Jagger thing came in, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to cope. So you trying to cope with, I know I'm something special, and I'm very talented, and then, but I gotta deal with this girl for the rest of my life now, who it's all about, it's her way or the highway. She's very stubborn, wanna fight all the time, very sneaky. You know, it was for better words, I'm not gonna say, I can't say ghetto, I could just say it was we had very ratchet moments due to our immaturity. And again, I feel like a lot of times a person's thought pattern is because of their upbringing. And you know how they say the apple don't fall far from the tree? Well, I can admit mine. You know, my dad, my uncles, everybody were lovers. So it's like once you got that snowball going, it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. So it was so out of control that there were scary moments in my life, like guns being put to my head, you know, more children claims. I had to get away in order to see who I really was. And now I understood why people make it in places and they don't really come back. Because it's so much there, it's like a horror movie. So, fortunately for me, I still go home. You know, because there's something there for me to keep me reminded of what I went through, and who I went through it with, what I'm still going to go through, and who am I today as opposed to who I was.
Now, where are you at today in terms of your relationship with her?
We pretty cool. She still got her ways, you know. She's still gonna want, you know, she's gonna want to, you know, have certain things her ways, you know. And since then, Mick Jagger. You looking at him. You looking at the bad boy. I'm a gentleman, but I'm a bad boy. You're looking at a great guy who has a lot of bad boy ways, and I've done things in my life, and I'm not the first, and I won't be the last, but rebounds and I don't want to get into it because I don't like to go too, you know, I'm still working on opening my shell, but I definitely have an incredible story to tell, but, you know, encounters with females, and I still had to, you know, let's just say I'm taking care of all my wrongs, or let's just say I'm paying my dues from the things that I've done. And so it's like, now here you are, I'm like the modern day Gerald Levert, Big Luther, just like I'm living, and we cool, me and my kids, my son's mom's cool. And then, you know, I got another life because I moved on. She's moved on. You know what I'm saying?
Now, in regards to the scratches on your arm and the scars, in that incident that you talked about, would you say you were the victim in that domestic violence situation?
I will say, because anyone who knows me knows that I'm just a cool guy. I'm not confrontational. I will say that those events at that, because and I'm gonna step a little further. Not only did I go through domestic violence, I went through abuse. You know, like my dad was very hard on us, and I don't think he did it. I don't know. I can't say he did it for satisfaction. I think he did it because that's all he knew. You know what I mean? Because his dad was hard on him. I don't think his dad was as hard as he was on the other siblings, but because he was the youngest. But I think that my dad, in a sense, had good intentions because he made me, I had to man up, and I think that was a large portion of why I am who I am today, where I think before I react. You know, and I know a lot of people out there understand that because it didn't kill me, but it did affect me. So I was like, you know, some people like ass whooping sometimes is, but when you get too many of them, and you got black and blue, you know, bruises, to the point where, you know, your mom had to tell them, look, you can't do this. You know, those things, it affects you. So it was a little boy trapped inside of me that never really got to get out. You know what I mean? So going through an abusive sort of past that I feel like, in a sense, helped me more than hindered me. I think the hindering part came when, after the relationship with my kid's mom, to where, like, when I got in another relationship, I didn't know how to love, or like it got so to the point where I would snap, and so it was to the point where, like, at times, like, me and my girlfriend would like go at it, and it looks like here's another relationship, and I had to stop myself because I was like, whoa, it's starting to repeat. And so eventually, you know, through prayer and meditation and things of that nature, like, it all just kind of fizzled out. And everything's been good, but yeah, I would say, like, I was the victim. I definitely was the victim. And I know, you know, I just feel like, you know, sometimes as a man, you're stronger than a woman, so you can't do that. You know what I mean? I respect and I love a woman, so you can't do those things. However, you have some women who will try you and want to take it there, and you like, why? I don't want to, like, that's not, I'd rather you walk away and leave me. I think that'll hurt me more. You know what I mean? Let's not get in an altercation. I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I do thank God that that part is like gone, you know?
Now, being a victim of domestic violence, especially from a standpoint of a male, what advice do you have? And you've dropped some advice throughout this interview, but do you have any additional advice for people watching this?
Yeah,
either from your male standpoint or just domestic violence in general?
I just feel like for both parties, if you're involved in it, somebody's hitting you, you got to realize that that's not love. Sometimes you feel like it's love. I think that's a form of domination, and eventually it can lead to death. If you go and look at you look at the numbers, especially for women. You know, a lot of women are leaving this world because they just they started out in something with a man beating on them, and then it went overboard. And like I said, for both parties, you know, because you might have a woman who snaps and she decides she want to stab you to death. I just rather you get out and learn how to love yourself, and learn, start from the core, start from childhood. What happened as a child? You might have been molested, you know, sexually abused. You might have been, you know, just verbally abused, just, you know, coming out of a very abusive home. You might have been neglected. You know, it's just so many things that sometimes start at the nucleus. And I feel like, to me, it's a generational curse that has to be broken. That's, to me, with anything. Child molestation, all that's bad. But it started somewhere through a generation. You know, to me, you know, honestly, you know, let's just keep it real. I just feel like in our black culture, in our black communities, a lot of things started and continue through generational curses, because when we were brought to America, they did so many things to us that degraded us, from, you know, basically mating. What they say, we mated, we bred like animals, like if you took and bred two pit bulls, and you decided, well, for my satisfaction, my personal satisfaction, I want to see two boys together, I want to see two girls together, and so eventually it all comes up. And I'm not saying, I don't want to play any card about sexuality. I'm just saying, when you talking about how many people have been hurt through history, so eventually it repeats itself. It starts out of the church and everything, and it just eventually, and here we are today in this crazy messed up world where a lot of kids are hurt and they can't control it. You feel me? Because of somebody else that has been hurt, and they're repeating it and repeating it. And so I'm the type of person, I don't want to repeat something that's bad. I'm about love and peace. I'm about a better world. And right now, with where we at in the nation, everything is all messed up, and it's supposed to be the greatest nation on the earth. So we have to kind of get back to what's going on. I wrote a song called Hood. Hood is not, doesn't talk about necessarily the state you're in an environment. It's about the state of mind. How can you get yourself out of the mud? Feel what I'm saying? I wrote Pray For Me because of what's going on in this crazy, messed up world. How can you get yourself out the mud? I've had my grandma tell me, when you come in, son, I pray for you all the time. So that's what Pray For Me is about. The struggling black male or female who risk it all to try to bring something home. Those things are real to me. So when I'm having this talk, I don't want people to be like, oh, well, you're another one that just want to talk about money, clothes, and hoes, and driving fast cars. That's cool. That's called making a movie. But then let's give you reality. Let's talk about the song I wrote, Hood, featuring my sister Fantasia, and it gives a story about the male and the female. You know, second verse talking about how a female, she's willing to stand by her man. That man was like, you know, I relayed myself in that story. The football star who's down on his luck. You know what I'm saying? 2 jobs and a felony. No, what did he say? With 3 strikes and a felony, he can't get a job. So now he on the block and he's risking freedom for prison. He had dreams of growing old. Now, no, going pro. He had dreams of going pro. Now he's out hustling. His girlfriend, she cries at night. She swore she would hold him down. She got knocked up, dropped out of school, and she's stripping now. So shawty don't cry no tears. Hustler don't shed no tears. Remember to show no fear. Don't never break, don't give. Don't let them see you sweat. Don't let them get the best of you, because you can make it out the hood.
Now, what's your advice to the youth? Now, you had just given advice about domestic violence and stuff like that. So this is just a general youth question, because the whole topic here was, you know, your youth and upbringing and so on and so forth. What's your message to the youth? And I know there could be several messages, but just give us one.
I think my message to the youth is basically, I'm crying out for you guys to like take life serious. Don't be like me and everybody else. There's so many people. And the funny part about this, I'm glad you said that. The funny part about this whole situation is we glorify wrong. It's like a game of cops and robbers. It's like now you got a little 13-year-old Scarface on every corner. It puzzles me. I remember a time where if you watch movies, now I wasn't in this time frame because I would be very old. But if you talk about, if you sit down and listen to your grandfathers or your grandmothers, or you watch movies, they clearly show, history clearly showed that at some point, because we were, as a minority, and because I won't say just blacks, I'm speaking for Spanish and Latin people. I'm speaking for Arabic people. I'm speaking for Indian people. Because we were considered somewhat at the minority, our way out was knowledge. You feel me? It was about being well-groomed and being able to kind of blend in and kind of, no, that doesn't, to me, that didn't mean that you were a house nigga. That didn't mean that you were whatever they wanted to call you that didn't fit the description of who you are. That just means you wanted to outsmart the you know what I mean? You wanted to outsmart the competition. And it went from that to I think an era, we went from an era of, we went from here to fuck the police, but which I got the reason why we did fuck the police. I think everybody gets that. And again, it's nothing against the police if you are a good cop. It's just the bad ones, again, from that word we say generation. Their dad wasn't right and their dad. And so you get loud on the police force, and it's almost like dating. You date for so long, and then after a while, the true colors come out, right? You're like, damn, I know who this is now. So you went from the fuck the police era to sex. Now it's sex, drugs. Sex, drugs, money, sex, drug, money, cars, clothes, houses. So I need for the youth to understand that this is a fucking movie. All this is we making movies. This all this is. And they get sucked in by drama. It used to be a time people ran from the drama. Something broke out, everybody gonna run. They didn't care to look back. Somebody be like, oh shit, everybody gone. Now, everybody like, oh, they fighting. And you ain't really thought about it. Again, this is where your thought process is supposed to come in. If you got two people knuckling up, they out there fighting. Why is it sometimes that all of a sudden you hear gunshots ring out? I lost a homeboy like that. Right after a football game. Coach told us, don't go to 5 points. Get over 5 points. And they all hanging out. And back then, thousands of kids. I mean, you got the whole, it's like everybody's out there, the whole city, people coming from other cities. It's right after a game, you know, right after Friday night football fever, you know. And I'll never forget the same girlfriend I told you about earlier, being on the porch with her and hearing gunshots. And I didn't think nothing else about it till I got to school. And they tell me the description goes, they out there, group of kids start fighting. Instead of people getting in their cars and leaving, they sit there and watch. Shots rang out. He looked at one of my other friends and said, it's cold out here. Put his head on and fell dead. Shot him in the head. Choices, decisions, think. I need for the youth to think, and you can have whatever you want. To me, it's cool to be smart. If I knew what I know now, the doctor is the coolest person. Why? Because they paid their dues, and now they can drive what they want, and they can sell drugs legally. He's a doctor. The athlete, he's paid his dues. He's overcome all distractions. Women, the corner. He made it. So I just feel like unless you feel like you tough as the toughest person in the world, don't sign up for a movie that you can't handle. I know firsthand the effects of what happens out here. Had another friend, grew up with us. He wasn't a drug dealer, but somehow he got into drugs. He was a high school star, played basketball. Good guy. I never knew him to get in trouble. They found him on the railroad tracks, tortured, skinned him alive, burned him. Ask yourself, was he even ready for that? He wasn't built for that. That's my message to the youth. Know what you're signing up for.